A 21-day water fast. When I first thought about fasting, fasting is something I do the first part of every year, whether it's a Daniel fast, which is fruits, vegetables, beans, water, um, nuts, or just a fruit vegetable juice fast. It is something I've practiced the first part of every year, kind of resetting my year. I do it for my mind, for my body, but spiritually more for breakthrough. And this year, when it was the new year, I was looking at which kind of fast did I want to do. And as I prayed about it, I felt God tell me, I want you to do a water fast. Now, I've never done a water fast more than, 2, 3 days. So this was a 21-day water fast. Now, I hadn't really researched it all that much. I could imagine that on the last week I'd probably be laying dead in my bed almost, not able to do anything. How does a body really function without food, without water? Well, wait a minute. I was drinking water. Every once in a while, I added a little tiny bit of lemon. I'd drink about 3 liters of water a day. And once I started, the very first day, my mind had a lot of back talk going on. I could not get it to be quiet. It was telling me I was insane. This is nuts. This is healthy. This is not healthy. You're going to die. Lots of things my mind was telling me, besides the fact that you're just plumb out cray cray. And by 2 o'clock, I had the most intense headache that I've had in a long time. And I took a couple of acetaminophen, and I'm laying in my bed. I'm just not doing well. I'm like, wow, this is a horrible way to start, a 21-day fast. I'm not doing well. And an hour later, I feel the spirit within me say, get up, go throw up. Now, I'm someone, I hate throwing up. I will avoid throwing up at all cost. But this time, I'm in the bathroom. I'm actually praying in the spirit. My spirit is uttering, prayer unto God. And at the same time that I'm praying, I'm hearing these words, death spoken over her, come out. Death, come out. I'm throwing up. I'm praying in the spirit, and I'm hearing these words, death, come out of her. You are broken off of her. The entire time I'm throwing up. I finish throwing up. The headache eases up a little bit, and I go lay back down. And now, again, I have no idea what my body is going to go through. I've signed up to do this in obedience to God, not knowing. I didn't really research it all that much. So the next day, my body is telling me, hey, don't you want to eat that? What about that? Don't you want to eat that? Oh, can you smell those marshmallows? Don't those marshmallows smell wonderful? And it was interesting how loud my body was telling me to eat this and to eat that. By the third day, my body is now just suggesting that it's time to eat. It's stopped suggesting food. It's just saying, hey, it's time to eat. Now imagine if you weren't buying food, preparing food, cooking food, eating food, cleaning up food, how much time of a day you would have. You have a lot of time on your hands. So I would spend a lot of that time prayer, devotion, journaling, talking to God. There were 3 main reasons I was going into this fast. And the first one was my marriage ended on January 18th. And I wanted to know that as a wife, I did everything that I could to help my husband, to set him free. And I'm praying and fasting that he would be free from the demons that's tormenting him. And the second also is my marriage is ending, that God is going to continue, as I know He is faithful, to bless me and move me forward in my life. That there was a reason God had me go through this, and I was okay, that God knows far more than I do, and my character was strengthened, who I was as a person was strengthened. And yet last year was the hardest year I've ever been through, and cried more than I've ever cried that I can recall. My heart was just broken. My heart is broken for the pain that someone is in, that you can't help them. You just have to love them with open hands. And so the second reason was helping me to understand more, why did I walk into something as painful as I did in my marriage. I loved this man. I adored him and respected him. I felt like he was my best friend. And shortly after being married, I just felt betrayed. And I knew that wasn't him, and I knew it wasn't his heart to hurt me. I knew that. And yet, my friends, people who knew me, they knew I was dying, and they didn't understand what was happening. So, in a closure of that, but to release him from anything and everything that he has been dealing with, just to so that he could find freedom. There's no judgment, condemnation. I believe that if you want freedom, if you want deliverance, God's waiting for you. But you do have to surrender, and you check pride and ego at the door. The second one was, as I'm moving forward in my in the ministry that God's called me to do, I wanted blessing. I wanted to know that that I'm doing this because this is what God's wanting me to do, and not just doing it to do it. And so I'm looking for breakthrough in how to present, free to spend, how to really release people from the bondage of finance. You know, when you feel guilty and you're second guessing yourself because of your expenses and you're frustrated with your finances, to help you understand it really has nothing to do with money. It has more to do with the priorities of your life. And is money controlling you, or are you controlling money? And it doesn't matter how much you make, great, small, old, young, it's all the same. The spirit of money is huge in people's lives, and it takes prayer and fasting sometimes to break certain things that you have on you. Third, I'm wanting breakthrough for each of my children, that they would step into a closer relationship with God, that beyond a shadow of a doubt, no matter what they're going through, they'll know that God is the God who serves. So I've got three main reasons. And then, of course, I'm also praying for, my church expansion, that more people will come to know Jesus. I'm praying for our president. I'm praying for our country, because God has called us to be the light in the world, not the darkness. Don't add darkness, but be the light. And so I'm going to talk about some of the body things that I experienced. I'm going to talk about the spiritual enlightenments that I received. But first, let's talk about the body. So again, first day, massive headache, spiritually delivered from words spoken over me, words I spoke over myself. The second day, the body suggesting that I'm eating everything in sight. The third day, it's just suggesting it's time to eat. By the fourth day and the fifth day, I actually heard my body say, "May I please have some water?" Now that was huge, because I began seeing people as bodies were in control and not the owners of the bodysuit. In the grocery store, I thought maybe on Sunday, I'd been fasting for a week. Maybe on Sunday I'd treat myself to some chicken broth, and or I'd treat my body to some chicken broth. Well, I went to the grocery store, and it was the most crazy thing I've ever seen. Bodies going, "Ooh, I want that. Ooh, I want that. Ooh, oh, ooh, I want some of that," and putting this and that in the cart. And I realized how much our bodies control us. Wow. Not only food, sexual addictions, watching too much TV, our bodies control. I don't want to exercise. And speaking of the I don't want to, I never realized how loud the I don't want to spirit lives in so many people, from the youngest child to the oldest. Think about how many times you're saying, "I don't want to, but I don't want to." That's actually not you. You were created in power and love and with a sound mind. I don't want to is a mild form, beginning stages of witchcraft and rebellion. God's asking us to lay down our lives. I don't want to. I don't want to lay down my fork. I don't want to lay down that addiction I have. And speaking of addictions, God has created us so that we're addicted to God. And if we're not addicted to God, we will find an addiction to fill this place. And I tell you, being addicted to God is the greatest high you'll ever experience. So continuing on, I started researching what's my body going to go through. I was watching my weight. I was losing a pound a day. Now that's okay. If you're heavier, you can lose a pound to 2 pounds a day. And I was a little concerned because I didn't have 2 pounds a day that I felt like I couldn't lose 42 pounds. That would just be insane. I would just be a skeleton. But so I was losing a pound a day, and I had researched between 8 to 10 pounds is what you carry in fluid and also in food in your body. So after you're done with your fasting, to expect to gain back that 8 to 10 pounds. Overall, I did, I lost 8 pounds. I'd lost 17, so I was looking a little thin, but I've gained that back, a little plumped out again, and so I lost about 8 pounds, which was good. I was beginning to recognize me. I'm like, wow, I recognize this body. Bowel movements, kind of weird, because the second day, the second day you're still eliminating stuff, and then went 2 weeks without having a bowel movement, and you're going, well, that's normal. I don't have any food going in there. On the 16th day, it was kind of weird. I kind of go, I have to go to the bathroom. So I go in the bathroom, and I was almost going to take a picture. It was the weirdest looking stuff that ever came out of me. Kind of slimy and weird, but bright orange. Not red, but bright orange, followed by a regular kind of stool. And you're thinking, that stuff has been inside of me. Is that toxins? Whatever it was, it needed to come out. And after it came out, about a half hour later, I had a little bit of diarrhea. And so it obviously just cleaned out whatever the rest of whatever was in me for 16 days, which was crazy. Can't imagine what it was. Or why it was bright orange. I was becoming weak. My purse became heavy to carry, and I was moving slower. Your body temperature lower, so I was freezing, and I was just cold. Oh my gosh, I was so cold. Your body temperature. Okay, so your body temperature lowers, your blood pressure lowers. Your heart rate lowers, you're breathing slower, you're moving slower, but at the same time, my mind was grounded and center and clearer than it's ever been. I was hearing God more than I'd ever heard him, and I feel like I hear him a lot, but this was to a whole different level. As I moved, it was like I could imagine if you could imagine Jesus on earth walking, he would have been anxious, in a rush, very grounded, solid, plodding along, but noticing and aware of everything around you. And so as I experienced that, the slowness, it was really nice. The weakness was a little strange, but I was kind of okay, I'll regain my strength. So I ended the fast a few days ago, and I've done yoga a couple of times and did a light workout with, like 3-pound weights to just kind of go, okay, body, let's get some strength back into you. Coming off to feed your body, I had planned a day of Gerber baby food, organic Gerber baby food. And I'm like, okay. Now my stomach hadn't had any kind of food. And one of the things I realized was intense hunger and intense over being full feel very much the same. Your stomach just doesn't feel very good. And some of my aha moments is I realized that we eat not because we're hungry. We eat because there's a feeling we don't want, and we're trying to get rid of the feeling. Instead, sit down with that feeling and talk about it with yourself. Where is it coming from? Are you anxious? What's happening? Food is wonderful. I love great tasting food. In fact, towards the end, I would ask my son, "Can I please make you some food and then watch you eat it?" I wanted food so much. And yet I found great pleasure in creating it, making it look beautiful, serving it to him, and watching him eat it gave me just as much pleasure as in eating it myself. Now that's a shift. Imagine wanting something so much that you're willing to give it to someone else. So that was food-wise. When my body would suggest something to eat, I would simply go, I'll add that to the list. I'll add that to the list. Oh, I want to enjoy this, or I want that. I'll add it to the list, because you'll have it again. You're not gonna be deprived, and you will be enjoying food once again. On the ninth day, I called my doctor. Next time I would call my doctor before I start my fast, but on the ninth day, I called my doctor to let her know that I'm doing a 21-day water fast, and they were like, "You're doing what? What? For how many days?" All right. We would really encourage you to maybe, bring in some vegetable juice, some fruit juice, maybe towards the end. And so then on the 15th day, the doctor called again to see how I was doing. And I said, I'm doing great. And I'm watching for signs of I was never dizzy, lightheaded. So, my blood pressure is low to begin with, and it was lower. So I wasn't having any signs of anything. Wasn't lethargic, was constantly with it. Like I said, my mind was clearer than it had ever been. And overall, there was times you're hungry, but then you're wondering, are you really hungry? But then my mind was also tripping out over the fact that I haven't eaten anything. It's been 16 days. I've not eaten anything, just water. And so my body, not knowing what was going to be happening, was kind of, voicing its opinion. And one of the things I realized is your body really does have something to say to you. Stop trying to shove food in it to cover the voice of what it's saying. Sometimes your body's going to be telling you, run, flee. Sometimes your body's going to say, hey, this isn't working out. One of the spiritual enlightenments that I have was just in driving. I would drive, and I'd, 2, 3, 4 miles over the speed limit, everyone's driving. And God spoke to me about how a single mile over the speed limit is a compromise of integrity. You're following the crowd. Stop following the crowd. Honor me. I said, obey the law of the land. And then I can hear you now, but I don't want to. Kill, send back to hell the I don't want to spirit. 1 single mile over the speed limit. God's saying, you're following the crowd again. Honor me. Obey the law of the land. If you compromise in one little thing, you'll compromise in many. And things don't get big and blown out of proportion because one day you just step into it. It's one little compromise after another. So every day I'm in the car, it's a test to me of, will I honor God? Will I obey the law of the land? Or will I just follow the crowd? I want to obey the law of the land and honor God with my life. Another thing that was really clear to me was how quickly we can rush in, or not we, but me, how quickly I can rush into something. I can feel very much in my spirit that this is what I need to do, but I need to make sure that I'm taking the time to really pray about what he's going to have me do, or how he's going to have me do it. Yes, he's might have shown me that this is what I'm going to do, but how is that going to happen? Another spiritual thing that happened a couple of days before the marriage ending, I had this really strange dream that it was very short. A snake came out of the center of the room, and we were floating about 1.5 feet above, and I was in my wedding dress, and the serpent had come out to destroy my marriage before it started. And I thought, oh, well, that's interesting. It's just because, the divorce is going to be final. And 2 days later, when I am cleaning my office, I reach into the corner of my closet to move something, and immediately I touch something that I knew was the devil. It brought me back to the dream because my wedding dress is hanging in that closet, so basically people are floating about 1 foot above. And this item that I had touched was something that was property of my husband's, and as I looked at it, I felt the evil spirit and presence come over me, that there was a curse attached to this item. I took it out to the garage, anointed my room with oil, and I was praying that God would remove anything that is stopping me from moving forward, whether it's moving forward in my life, moving forward in my business, in the ministry that he has for me, anything in my life. And so I just took that as, wow, thank you, God, for cleaning that out. See, we often don't know when things are coming into our life. Um, when I got married, I lived in an environment where I loved who I was. I loved life, I positive, upbeat, and I had the false understanding that I could bring someone into that life and keep that same atmosphere. And I have, I've received so much love from God. I continually give love out, and I just thought, it just kept flowing. What I didn't realize was the negativity and the hurtful words, how they hurt. They hurt. And though I did my best, it was affecting me. It was a death of 1,000 cuts. And when someone doesn't love who they are, it's very difficult for them to love someone else. And so my eyes was open to that understanding of, no matter how much I love you, no matter how much I want the best for you, if you don't love you, if you don't want the best for you, it's not going to happen. So I can have an amazing solution for your finances or help in your life, but it starts with you. And really, it starts even before you, because I had said it before, you were created in perfect love, in power, and a sound mind. You're absolutely brilliant. That's how God created you. And so when you line your life up with God and you begin to receive that from God, you can then share it with other people. And so anyway, my 21-day fast, let me review just a couple of my notes here for a quick second and see where I'm at. Oh, a couple of other things was how different things in my skin healed. I had different spots in my skin, and they went away. And I'd had them for 10, 15 years, and they went away. I think that's all of the things that, the couple of things that was very apparent to me was silence is louder than you think. Think about just even fasting from noise, from the radio, from podcasts, but fasting from all of the things and the sounds and just being silent before God so that He could speak to you. Silence is so loud. And sometimes God wants you to do things. They're difficult and they're unpleasant. I encourage you to do them anyway. In my body, there was there was a taste of death and toxins in my mouth. And I really equated that. That's how God feels about lukewarm Christians. People who say they're a Christian, but yet they don't follow Him. You want to just vomit it out. You want it out. I want to scrub it out of my mouth, but there was no way to scrub it out. It was just there. Fasting shows me what I value more. Did I want to eat, or did I want my husband to experience freedom? Did I want to eat, or did I want breakthrough in my company? Did I want to eat, or did I want my children to experience God on a whole new level? Well, I wanted the former. I didn't want to eat. When you don't know what you want to eat, cover your mouth. In fact, covering your mouth would actually reduce a lot of sin in our lives. Just cover your mouth. And when you have your mouth covered long enough, pretty soon you're going to know what you value, what you want. Again, stay on your knees when the flood comes. It's not if the flood comes, but when the flood comes, stay on your knees. It's hard going through times that are difficult, and yet there is a surety and a hope that your future is better than your past. No matter what your past has been, your future is brighter. God came to give you an abundant life, and that abundant life isn't wrapped up in your yesterday. It's not wrapped up in your mistakes. I thank God for 2 Corinthians 5:17, where it says, the old things are past. You're a new creation. You're a new creation in Christ. The former things are past. Sometimes those former things are what you said earlier this morning, the things that you did yesterday or the day before. Those former things are past, for you're a new creation in Christ. So I encourage you to consider every year, at least every year in January, consider what kind of fast would you do? A 21-day fast. And 21 days is 7 or 3 weeks of 7. Purification, 21 days, seeing the end of sin happening in your life. The significance, 21, 40 days, doing a week. In your body, after 48 hours, your body goes into super healing mode. After 8 days, it's an intense super healing mode. So if there's something you're struggling with, consider the juice fast, a Daniel fast, a water fast. Contact your doctor and let him know what you're doing. Just in case something happens. My doctor said, she believes in the many benefits of fasting, but just in case something happens, she would have been able to say, yeah, she's probably low on potassium, she's low on salt, she's low on this and this, and be able to assist if anything happens. But again, I look at it when you're fasting from a spiritual perspective, God's got you, and no worries. And I thank God for the breakthroughs in my company, and the things that I learned. I thank God that He calls me His own, that I am the apple of His eye. So thank you for hanging out with me for these past 26 minutes and learning a little bit more about fasting. And maybe you're next. Maybe it's not a 21-day water fast. Maybe it's 3 days. Maybe it's a week. Maybe it's a juice fast or a Daniel fast. Look up the benefits of fasting. I know there seems to be a crave. Oh, I'm intermittent fasting. Well, the whole idea of fasting is that you take the time that you're not eating and preparing food, that you spend it journaling, you spend it with God, getting to know yourself more. If you're just not eating, it's called a diet. Difference between fasting. Anyway, may you be blessed by the testimony of my faith that you are absolutely brilliant. You are created in power, love, and a sound mind. And that body there of yours, it's going to help you if you let it. But you do have to tell him who is the boss. Thanks, guys. Later.